The tea house is really a gift symbolizing world peace and friendship. It was a gift to us by Dushanbe, Tajikistan, which is our sister city. Sister city is essentially directly through the globe. So if you were to walk from Boulder through the center of the earth, you would end up in Dushanbe. My name is Melissa Lucas. I am the general manager of the Boulder Dushanbe Tea House. Mary Axe and Sophia Stoller were the two people who really wanted to create a positive relationship with our sister city. So they took a trip to Dushanbe and really fostered good ties with the mayor at that time. They decided that they wanted to gift us the tea house. So 40 artisans worked together and hand-painted and hand-carved the entire building. It was all basically made in pieces and shipped over in 200 crates. And this was the late 80s, early 90s, so still in the midst of Cold War times. So when Boulder received the gift, they were a little hesitant about taking the time and resources to put up this building. There was also a charter that we were not able to put up this building. So it did take many folks investing time and energy into making this a magical place and one that was really unique for the community. The building itself actually lived in crates in storage for 8 years at the wastewater treatment plant before it became an initiative for Boulder to really create this space and set it up as a gathering area for the local community. So in 1997, construction began and the building opened May of 1998. 40 of the original artisans came out and helped to really ensure that we kept true to the architectural integrity of the building. And the Gaunch plaster panels were actually added during the installation. The building was meant to be an open-air tea house, as is traditional in that part of the world. So the walls and windows were added here in Boulder. And one artisan actually came out, and Kodir Remakov was his name. He helped and assembled the plaster panels in the restaurant owner's garage, incidentally. They worked on it together for about 6 months before it was ready to be added into the structure of the building. So it's definitely a very unique story, one with many different folks really trying to come together to build this amazing gift. And then in exchange, our sister city organization was able to raise $800,000 to gift originally a cyber cafe to the city of Dushanbe, which has actually turned into a friendship center with many different programs available to the local community there.
So the Tea House project is working with students from CU Boulder's architecture department, where we created a class that looks at architectural analysis of the tea house, and they work to restore the tea house with Maruf, who is from Tajikistan, and he was here for about 6 months, where he came and not only taught students how to do the painting and the restoration, but also just about the history of Tajikistan and why the tea house is here and its relationship with the city. Hi, my name is Kate Sector. I'm an architecture student at the Environmental Design program at CU Boulder, where I'm working with the university on the restoration of the tea house project. My specific role really looks at the publication side, and we're looking at how we restored the tea house and a lot of student essays that reflect different interactions with the tea house historically and through architectural analysis. One of the key important pieces of this building is that it resembles this really exciting relationship with Tajikistan that's been put in place since the 40s and 50s through the Sister Cities program. And what's really exciting about this building is that although it started off with just the kind of original piece it's been built on throughout history to both kind of collaborate with the original design, but also the city's needs and the fact that this is now a restaurant, and so it's had a lot of different pieces added to it. And because of it, it makes it a really exciting preservation piece where we're looking at not only preserving the original structure, but also its kind of process throughout history and what it means for the city today. A big part of what we're trying to do is to work with Evolve Lab to kind of capture this piece and to start to look at recording this through different medias and new technology in order for us to find new ways to preserve the building other than just the original architectural drawings and photos that we have. So today we are using LiDAR scanning to try to capture some of the intricacy of the building that is really hard to do otherwise. So this LiDAR scanning allows us to kind of get clear measurements and really capture all the detailing you see in the different columns and the ornamental work that is seen throughout the tea house. I think there's kind of two routes for me for what makes me really passionate about architecture. One is the kind of environmental side and how we can improve buildings through sustainability strategies and looking at new technologies. But I'm also really interested in the preservation side and kind of how different buildings stand out as icons for, I guess, kind of a relationship to a different city. And that's why specifically I was really interested in this tea house project. And it's one of the things that really stood out to me was Boulder was this really unique piece of architecture within the city that I felt didn't fit in, but resembled an extremely exciting relationship. And kind of as I went through school and learned more about it, I discovered that it is a really important part to a unique relationship that we have across the world and abroad. So at the intersection of both sustainability and historic preservation, what I think is really exciting about this tea house is the transformation over time and how the tea house was originally designed for a very unique climate in Tajikistan, and so that's kind of more of an arid climate. And if you look at the tea house, the original design was actually an open building, so it was really just kind of this plaza with this big structure, and that's because most tea houses are open spaces and it's good for ventilation and shading. But when you bring that type of building into Boulder, you don't get the same kind of effect. We don't want that same style because we're looking at a very different climate where it snows here, it's cold, we also have a different culture. So you're looking at things like vandalism was a really big concern, and they just couldn't have a big open, building like this. And so over time, they kind of met with architects, including Vern was a big player in this, and they had to modify the building in order to fit our climate. So it was really interesting because of that kind of sustainability aspect, but also culturally, they had to add all the windows and doors. They included a skylight and all these other features that you'll see in the tea house. And that's kind of because of this transformation over time and different cultural values and also just climate values too.
So one of the great opportunities we have as architects and designers is the ability to save and preserve our cultural heritage and all these artifacts we have within our environment. In the past, the documentation for getting all that historic preservation would have taken several days, if not weeks, to get a good, accurate detail of what was considered historically precious there at the Dushanbe Tea House. With the advent of LiDAR and being able to take point clouds, we now can go in there in a matter of hours and get highly detailed, accurate records of not only the existing architecture, but all the other historical artifacts, such as the columns in this particular space. We can get the intricacies of the pilaster just to see how detailed these were. And we know that a lot of these elements were hand carved out there, and no two elements are the same. Because of the way it was created, using hand techniques and painting, a lot of that can deteriorate over time. It's really neat to have that ability for us to go in there and record that. Historic preservation really plays an important role within our environment. Today we see everything's changing so fast, but being able to record that data and recall it to see what was significant as far as the colors or the sizes of elements inside there, and how does that change throughout the course of time.
Creating a 3D point cloud of the Dushanbe Tea House, we were able to capture every measurement existing in this building in about an hour and a half, instead of having to go out and field measure, which could have taken a day to 2 days and would not have been as accurate as the data captured with our LiDAR scanner. OnPoint Scans is a reality capture service where we go out with various scanners and capture 3D point clouds. The purpose of this point cloud is for historical preservation. We wanted to go in and capture the existing structure of the Dushanbe Tea House in every detail, and we were able to do it in an hour and a half as opposed to a full day to multiple days of field measurements. So we used a laser scanner to capture a 3D point cloud of the Dushanbe Tea House. We went and captured about 20 scans moving throughout the interior and as well as the exterior. Once the scans were captured, we brought it back and put it into Recap Pro and registered the scans and created the 3D point cloud. Now that we have captured the 3D point cloud of the Dushanbe Tea House, if any damage were to take place at the tea house, we have fully captured the existing conditions, and anyone attempting to restore it would have all the measurements they would ever need to do that. Once we created the 3D point cloud, we exported it as an RCP file and we brought it into Revit, set a new coordinate, and then began modeling off of the point cloud data.
Revit is a building information modeling program that allows us to have a digital twin of the built environment. This model replicates what we have in the real world. So we can do things such as seismic design or coloring, lighting analysis, and also replicating where these buildings are within the world. We can study traffic flow or having people interact within that environment to replicate, to really see how that's going to play out before the building ever gets constructed.